What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges back with you on a Monday night. We're about to wrap up July, just a couple of days left. Thank you a ton for being here on a Monday night. We, of course, have a ton to talk about. A little something, something trying to get going in the tropics. At least there's some buzz in the tropics, and we're going to kind of separate some of that noise from the actual scientific meteorological fact that is going on across the board, as well as we are breaking down that and then the big time heat moving into Central Florida. So we are live with you tonight on News 6 Plus and of course on the News 6 YouTube page. We're first going to talk about the rare extreme heat watch. I get it. It is hot in Florida. It's always hot in Florida. This is a level above on what a typical Florida day is, though. And we've been seeing that over the weekend. It was hotter today than it was over the weekend. And tomorrow is going to be hotter. So please don't put in the chat, oh, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's always hot in Florida in the summertime. Yes, I know that for sure. But this is, again, we start to get into that dangerous level where you really need to be taking care of yourself. And again, the heat watch, the extreme heat watch that's out from the Weather Service, and we'll take a look where that is. That is a very, very rare designation. It's whenever that heat index gets up to that 110 to 115 category. All right, so then stick around after the first break. We're going to get into the tropics, and there is a battle brewing. If you signed up for my Tropics Watch newsletter, that's, of course, at clickorlando.com/newsletters, and then find the Tropics Watch section. All you need to do is put your email in the little box there, and then you'll be signed up. It is for free. You know what I mean by that title, that there is a battle brewing this hurricane season. And it's between the AI models, the brand spanking new ones, and our old school physics, math-based deterministic models. You may have seen some of the posts across the internet this weekend. We're going to break down some of the AI stuff versus the deterministic and see if anything is out there actually has a shot to develop. And then, of course, we're going to end things with the last 5 or 6 minutes with any questions, comments, all of the above at the end in our sound off section. But we're going to spend a lot of time on the heat and on the tropics because, of course, it's July in Central Florida. Okay, so here's the deal. This is kind of what's creating the buzz here. The extreme heat watch. This is something we don't see every day. In fact, the last time we did see an extreme heat watch in Central Florida, this widespread, was 2023, August of 2023. So again, it has been almost 2 years since that has happened. So again, we're talking about the hottest weather in 2 years at least coming down the pipeline. Of course, if you were paying attention this weekend, Tampa hit their first 100-degree reading ever, and that's without the humidity involved. We'll talk about how they were able to reach that rare feat, that unprecedented feat, because records go back to 1850, and that's the last time, or that's when records began. And again, that is they did that when they've never done that before. By the way, we're taking a live look tonight in Orlando and, of course, in Tampa. That is welcoming them to the Century Club, hitting the 100-degree mark for the first time. So this is the deal tomorrow. And I also get this, and this is always my disclaimer / soapbox whenever I'm talking about the heat index, because every single time I share a heat index map, I always get comments on my Facebook page. You're blowing it out of proportion. Why not just show the actual air temperature? Well, I do that too. But the thing with the heat index is it's just like the wind chill, except on the hot side to a degree. It's an apparent temperature. So it only impacts things that are alive, you, your pets, whereas the heat, the actual air temperature that's on the thermometer, that affects things. Obviously, it affects humans as well, but it also affects inanimate objects, maybe like a car engine or something else that you need to keep out of the heat when it starts to get above 90, 95, 100 degrees, things like that. So that's the reason why we separate it. When you're talking about the heat index, it's likely that you have a ton of moisture in the air, bumping up that humidity. And if you didn't know how your body cools itself, it cools itself naturally by sweating. And when you have a ton of humidity in the air, that sweat evaporates off your body not efficiently at all. And that's how your body cools itself. Again, your sweat evaporates off your body. Evaporation is a cooling process. Again, when there's a lot of humidity, you don't evaporate that sweat. So that is why um it is up. No, but okay, so blue scar. It's only the second time it's happened since that watch has been around. So it's happened twice in the last 2 years, but it is an oddity because this is only the second time that it's been widespread in Central Florida. So I want to be clear about that. Why are we getting so many more these days? You be the judge of that. There's a reason why it's a little bit warmer here in Central Florida and across the state of Florida. It's because there's a lot more moisture in the atmosphere. The climate is obviously changing, and we're getting these more often. That's one of the other reasons why it is so hard for Tampa to get to 100 and for Orlando to get to 100, and really every single site around Florida to get to 100 because have so much moisture and everything like that around too, and that happens, and that prevents moisture heats up slower than dry air. So 107 heat index today. Hey, Nikki. Orlando Slingshot, what's going on? Aiden, 87 degrees in Port St. Lucie, 87-degree heat index. And this is the other part to that too. So Nikki brings up a great point here that it feels like 87 degrees at 9:30 at night. So we're not getting much in the way. Even last week, before we cranked up the thermostat again to the upper 90s, the mornings were decently pleasant out there. There were a couple mornings that were pretty nice. So it goes without saying here that tomorrow's going to be on the dangerous side. And it's still because of this big chunk of high pressure. This was basically over Atlanta over the weekend. Now it's trying to slide off to the north and west, closer to Oklahoma, St. Louis, Omaha, Denver. It's going out in that direction. If you're interested as to the perfect storm, though, that created the 100-degree reading in Tampa, it's because of this. What I did, I ran a backward trajectory model. And this is the cool thing. You can go back into the model data and then rerun where the air parcel came from. So if you look closely at your screen, that red line coming it down from Gainesville to Tampa, that's where the air parcel had come from. So, as the air was baking under that big chunk of high pressure this weekend across the deep south, like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, the wind direction was in unheard of out of the north and northeast into Tampa. In order for Tampa to fend off the West Coast sea breeze coming in and kind of bring in that cooler air from the Gulf, you need to have a breeze out of the north and east kind of pushing back at it, all while the air to the north of Tampa was much hotter because it was right underneath that dome of high pressure that was just baking Georgia, North Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and then we were bringing that heat right on down the spine of the Florida Peninsula. It's why Leesburg, if anybody tuning in from Leesburg tonight, why we hit 100 today and yesterday, because of that breeze coming down right out of North Florida and kind of transporting down there. The air was so very dry as well in the mid levels of the atmosphere. That's something we don't always have. It's why the storm chances were very low. That's why the storm chances were pretty much non-existent over the past couple of days, because there's just a lot of dry air in the mid levels of the atmosphere to also help get that going. Alrighty, guys, I have to take a short break. Stick around. We are talking Tropics next. Some of the AI models over the weekend, and you may have seen them, have gone bonkers with our next potentially storm developing out into the Atlantic. We're going to take a look, though, if that is indeed a possibility. So stick around. I'll see you guys in about 3 minutes. Alrighty, guys, we are back. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here on a Monday night. We get together every Monday through Friday at 9:30 on the News 6 YouTube page and, of course, on News 6 Plus. That is a free download. I highly encourage you to download that because there's a lot of cool tropical stuff that we look at throughout the entire year that is posted there. A lot of live streams and stuff. If you're bored in your office or just wanted to have some live cams on from around Central Florida, you can have those on as well. Just kind of roll into the background. I like looking at the Port Cam or Daytona Beach and all that stuff there is all free when you download that. Elizabeth is asking, where did the thunderstorms come from today along the East Coast sea breeze? There were a few out there. Rain chances today were at 20%, so not completely zero. And we just had those one or two thunderstorms that hung out around the I-4 corridor today along the East Coast sea breeze. There's a slightly better chance for thunderstorms tomorrow. That's going to go up to 30%, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Okay, tropical satellite tonight. This is what we're watching, and this is what I guess the buzz a little bit in the Atlantic. It's these waves that are emerging off of Africa right now. We have about three of them, and they may try to converge and work their way to the west a little bit. The deal is, this is what is waiting for them. So all of these waves are running into this dry, dusty, stable air. Now, I will say these guys are so far getting out ahead of the main kind of shroud of dust that's coming out of northern Africa. So they may have a shot to get over there. Those might end up missing the dry, dusty air. As a whole, though, and this is kind of what I want to be clear about, I don't think that this is the start of the flurry of activity on the Atlantic side. That's one of the things that I'm watching because the air is so dry. The Atlantic is what we call very stable right now. And the two of those work against tropical development. So I think that they might slowly try to do something once they get past the Caribbean islands. But until then, it's just not very conducive. Although these two waves here, this one with a little spiral and that one right there, looking pretty healthy tonight. And there's another big juicy wave getting ready to eject off of Africa over the next 24 or so hours. But you see that all those white lines out of the north and east, that's because we have a big chunk of high pressure right up here by the Azores. And whenever you get strong high pressure up there, it tends to drain that dry, stable air right on into that main development region. Okay, so I've had to use the timeout button once tonight, and we're gonna go to quantum questions. He gets the second timeout button of the night because spreading some misinformation out there. So if you talk misinformation or you spam up the chat, you get put into timeout. So that's the first time I ever had to use two um, timeouts. So each get a 10-minute timeout. I'm not blocking them. You can come back, but we talk facts here and all that stuff. The dust is there naturally from the Sahara Desert. It's not put there by humans, as he would suggest in the chat. So just want to be clear about that. There's also another little teeny tiny wave out here. It actually looked rather healthy this afternoon. I posted it on my Facebook page and on the Just Weather YouTube channel. If you're familiar with that, we have another channel that's all weather, and that is at just_weather if you want to check that out. But we talked about this guy. I looked at a little healthier today, and it had some outflow. It's one of the more healthy things that I've seen so far this hurricane season. Hurricane Center never highlighted it, but nonetheless, it's kind of fading right now and all that. So that's wave number one. Now I want to show you the difference between the models because that's kind of the biggest thing here. So I'm going to bring up on the other weather computer the AI model. So this was the Euro AI. This was just this morning. There were some crazier runs over the weekend that showed a hurricane going into South Florida and then curving up and then going towards the North Gulf Coast. Is it possible? I guess, nothing's impossible, but one of the deals is that I'm watching, and let me bring up my telestrator. is a highlight that we had early in the season was we might have some issues with waves surviving across the main development region. But then whenever they got close to home, because how warm the water temperature was, that we would start to see things kind of flare up late into the game here. So this is what the Euro AI is predicting. That's on August 7th, by the way, a little storm coming through the Bahamas and then kind of working across South Florida and then strengthening into the Gulf side. Is it possible? Yeah, but it's not getting a ton of model support. And that's why if you subscribe to my Tropics Watch newsletter, I talked about that as being like a battle between the deterministic, which is what we're looking at now. This is the plain old Euro, and it really doesn't have anything. Maybe at the very end, it has a wave. This is August 12th. That's certainly something there. So now the Euro is starting to bite onto something. That was this morning's Euro coming through. So it appears that the Euro is actually coming into better agreement because now there's something there as well on the latest run. It's ensembles, though, not so much. And you see right here that there's only a few members online. Now, remember what ensemble forecasting is. Ensembles put in different kind of initial conditions to the system, to the storm, and or to the model run. And when you get a bunch of different individual ensemble members coming online, it gives you a little more confidence that something is going to happen. You use these when you don't have a ton of information, and we don't have a ton of information because they're way out into the middle of the Atlantic, and there's no way of knowing until we get hurricane hunters up in there to really sample the environment and sample the storm on what is actually going to happen. We need that better data, and that's why the hurricane hunters are so critical. But I wanted to show you that, again, just the difference between the Euro AI, which have a bunch of, that's the regular European right there, that have a bunch of those L's near the Bahamas, but certainly not as aggressive as some of the former runs of the European AI model, which is what we are doing, which is what we are looking at right now. We went over kind of a lot there and I bounced around, so I apologize for that because we're under a time crunch these days. Do me a favor, post in the comments if you have any questions there, if anything was unclear. We're going to obviously revisit this tomorrow on the tropical front as well. So remember, mark your calendars, 9:30 every single Monday through Friday. And obviously we go tropical heavy once we get into the kind of after the first break and get in real nitty gritty. And I'll have more stuff loaded up tomorrow. We'll watch the trends and everything like that. But if you have any questions, post those in the comments and I will answer those in about 3 minutes. Thank you guys a ton for being here. Alrighty, guys, we're back to take some of your questions. Thank you a ton for hanging out with us tonight. As always, great conversations in the chat room. Please keep on posting those through. Want to answer Melissa's questions, and the short answer is the extreme stuff I think breaks on Wednesday, but it's still going to be really, really hot, still above typical Florida heat through the end of the week and into the weekend. The good news is that storm chances do go up a little bit as we move into the end of the week and into next weekend. Meme Studio is asking about heat and why aren't we getting massive storms in heat or in heat. Geez, in why aren't we getting massive storms within this heat? So I want to show you what's going on in northern Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota right now. This is this is the deal with what we call ridge riders. So I mentioned the heat, or I showed you that dome of heat on the model forecast, and we'll go back to that. Typically, underneath these big ridges of high pressure, it's really hard to get clouds. These things promote air to sink. When air sinks, it dries out, it warms up, and you don't get any storms underneath. In order for the big heat, you say typically you're looking for a cold front to then lift that warm air up, and then that creates the instability. Um, the cold air being above the warm air. That's not what we have going here. These big high pressure cells are hot from the surface up to the mid levels of the atmosphere, so you don't really create that instability. So that's why we're not getting it. The bigger storms are up here in the upper Midwest because you see where that orange kind of turns to yellow a little bit. We have cooler temperatures moving through northern Minnesota, and when you get those difference in temperature like that, that's where the big storms are fueled. So they're expecting a big, long-lived, straight-line wind event from the Dakotas, potentially all the way towards just to the west of Chicago. So all that stuff. Okay, Blue Scar says traditional model suggesting a storm in the Gulf the second week of August. It'll look huge and round. That, yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't put anything. I wouldn't put. I mean, that was the second week of August. I mean, that's still 14 days away. So I wouldn't put any kind of stock in anything like that. Again, we really don't have a super conducive Atlantic basin right now. So what we need to have happen for a storm to survive is kind of like a ghost wave coming over, losing a lot of its punch in the non-favorable main development region, and then kind of flaring up in close to home. And this is one of the reasons why preseason we thought that we'd have a problem with potentially some homegrown storms because of how warm the water temperature is close to home. The yellows, oranges, and reds indicate where the water temperature is above normal. It's kind of getting back to above normal in the main development region, but all that's been an issue and one of the reasons why it's been stable. So I still don't see anything crazy over the next couple of weeks coming at us from Africa. We're going to have to watch if there's an area right here up the southeast corner of the United States for potentially one of those waves sneaking over and then flaring up in the super warm Gulf Stream. That's what I have my eye on. All right. I have to run. We can spend much more time on this tomorrow if you'd like. I'm back here tomorrow again at 9:30 in the evening. Please post in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you're in the Florida area, yes, Meme Studio, that's exactly it. It's just because there's no cool air aloft and there's a lot of dry air in the mid levels of the atmosphere. So they try to grow those thunderstorms and they entrain in the drier air, and there's not enough instability to cause those storms to rise really fast. And so they just peter out. So they're not lasting long either. And the other sea breeze isn't very active right now, and it's not helping to force those storms up. So long story short, that is it. I have to run, guys. News 6 at 10 starts in just a couple of minutes. News 6 at 11 on traditional TV. We're back for you. Thank you guys a ton for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button if you're coming back tomorrow night, 9:30. We'll have much more tropical look and much more in-depth look at the tropics. I wanted to spend a lot of time on the heat since we did have that rare heat warning sent in Florida. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Be safe out there.